All right, we got a lot we got to discuss on this video, and this one is going to focus on jobs.
As in job security or job loss?
Yes, yes, one and the same.
Okay.
And perhaps maybe some people's misconception of how safe their jobs may be.
Okay.
And this is not to scare people, it's to inform and educate. It would be like sometimes, in my opinion, you see people with poorly inflated tires. Mm-hmm. You see them with their gas cap open. You see them riding around doing something that, you just try to get their attention to let them know before a bigger problem happens.
Okay.
It's one of those things like, well, why didn't you tell me if you knew it was going to happen? So it's not to scare you like, hey, your tire's low. It's to warn you that your tire's low.
Yeah.
And low, poorly inflated tires reduce fuel mileage at certain speeds and certain temperatures and certain durations can actually pop on the highway and be more dangerous. And they also reduce the lifespan of the tire.
But the good news is a low air tire can be fixed as long as it's caught in time. And then you, in theory, will negate all those negative issues.
The key is just not getting all bent out of shape when somebody tries to help you understand. So it's not to say that you're going to lose your job. It's not to say that every job is going away. But it is to say this is what's happening, and we should probably be paying attention to it. So that's that. Credit card debt is hitting record highs. It's something we have discussed on previous videos before. But Economic Ninja just posted a video today or yesterday. And I want to touch on that just a little bit, as well as more businesses are closing with a rise in crime and social economic stress being a factor and further creating more deserts and wastelands in specific neighborhoods and cities around the country. Not quite sure how the YouTube algorithm works, but it said on my last upload that a search term was Anton Daniels. So I looked up Anton Daniels and I looked up one of his most recent videos, and it was just interesting because it was like a little podcast conversation with a police officer, I think. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, I didn't watch the videos, it's like just a gist, but it was like 50, it was a big arrest. It had something to do with Charleston White. 50 men were arrested and put in jail. Okay. But the impact that it had on the 150 fatherless children now in these neighborhoods, in this negatively impacted socioeconomic society that really didn't necessarily promote positive growth and change. It just further influenced more problems that now these children, these fatherless children, will potentially multiply as a result of what their fathers did before them.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Which is sad to say, but it's something we should probably be mindful of and considerate of as we move along in this video.
Now, I haven't seen it, but were the 50 arrests ethnic? Was there
probably?
Because I was going to say that the African American community is one of the smallest demographics is a smaller demographic in the United States, but makes up the majority of arrests and jail prisoners, whatever the right word there is.
Yeah, probably. I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to say probably. You want water?
No, thank you. I have coffee.
Say probably.
Thank you.
But again, something we should really keep in mind and consideration as we go through this video. Economic Ninja talked at length about the economic collapse and how credit card debt is on the rise and how many people are in the direct path of this storm. So let's just watch that clip Just so because you haven't seen it.
I have not seen it.
And
I try to watch everything Travis does, but I haven't seen it.
everyone will be affected in 5 months, is what it says.
5 months doesn't seem like that long of a time frame when you're trying to get something done.
I will say it's kind of funny because he has charts, but his phone is probably set up like ours was, so his charts are backwards.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because the picture there's backwards.
And I do not believe the Fed is sharing all of the information. I've got a lot of charts that I've printed off I want to go over with you. I've also got a couple of stories. It is regarding household credit card debt, how it is literally rapidly before our eyes exploding, and it is yet to hit the Fed website. We are seeing this happen very fast. I'm going to compare it with charts to what happened in 2007, 2008. And then I'm going to talk real quick. I've got a quick story out of the hedge, and it's very quick about healthcare job cuts, because I have been talking about the massive job cuts that have already begun at the end of last year, beginning of this year. But I believe that they are going to be exploding in the fall. And I want to remind people that are waiting for the housing market to correct and other markets to correct, it isn't until someone is forced to sell something or forced to stop their spending.
So real quick, this is something that I touched on months ago, not to make people believe that their jobs are in danger to that wide scale risk, that huge risk, but don't just look at it and say, I'm in healthcare, I'll be fine.
Yeah, because I mean, every industry could have parts of it on the chopping block. Nobody is safe when it comes to working for somebody else.
It is a recession-proof industry, but the practice or the hospital or the EMT or whoever you work for isn't. Also, being forced to sell. This is the pivotal point of this economic collapse and crash and crisis of liquidity concerns affecting people. But unlike before, which Economic Ninja goes into 2008 crash, I don't see the people who are forced to sell and liquidate taking too much of a loss because of the market. But I also don't see too many people having great opportunities to pick up huge deals.
Very true.
But I do see companies like BlackRock coming in
And scooping them up.
Yeah.
In a couple of different ways that we see a collapse, and that collapse can snowball out of control very, very rapidly. Two different ways people are forced to stop spending is if they simply have no money because they lost their job. And the other way is by the availability of credit. We're going to show you some charts that I think are completely staggering, and it really paints the picture of where we are now and that we are in this crash, and that the Fed, because they look back in the past, and usually to make policy decisions the past 90 days, they haven't seen what has happened in the last 30 days.
And that's important. That was like my analogy of how the Fed tries to adjust the economy like steering a large cruise ship, but are blindfolded. And the information and the inputs that they have to make literally take several minutes to be delivered, to then see the reaction, to then do the whole process again. And at this point in time, I think they have to really drill down and get more in tune with the market, because that 90-day to 30-day comparison is going to be drastically. You make the wrong move, it could be.
Well, I mean, you got to look at this. We'll look at this from a food standpoint, if you will. 90 days ago, it was very hard to find eggs anywhere. Today, 30 days ago, they're all over the place. There's no issue anymore. But if you're basing everything today off of what you learned 90 days ago, your mind is still in that, oh no, era for eggs at least. Whereas now it should be in the, okay, we're good.
Yeah. If you're managing the inventory levels and you're looking at 90 days ago,
you're going to over order, and then you're not going to be able to sell them all because you're going to have an overabundance.
Now, Economic Ninja goes on further in the video to discuss a lot of different things, one of which being the credit crisis and the credit crunch, which the banks and the lenders, or the credit card companies, all these financial institutions are going to be pulling back, making it harder to have access to borrowed money. and any borrowed money that you would have access to is going to become more expensive. Their goal right now is to stop the bleeding. They're in a maintenance mode. They want to put money in the banks, and they want to find ways to keep it in the banks. But it's hard to do because people would typically use credit. But when credit's not available or credit's too expensive, interest rates are too high, they go to their cash in the bank. So they're burning the candle at both ends.
So I had a thought earlier. Instead of trying to apply for new credit cards and get new credit cards, your best option is if you already have credit cards that you have either paid off or you've been paying off or are under 30% usage, reach out to that credit card company and ask for an increase. Now, don't go ask for an increase if you're at 80% usage, 90% usage, or you've been late on any payments within the last 6 months, because they're going to shoot you down. It has to be a smart ask. But a lot of times you have a better chance of getting a bump in your credit limit than you do in getting a brand new credit card.
Yeah, but if you're doing that to solve a problem, then you really need to focus on the bigger problem, and that's the fact that you don't have the money.
I was thinking of it as a preemptive in case there is a problem. At least you have some sort of fallback if it comes down to it as a last resort.
Absolutely. They'll be monitoring that too. And when that time comes, they'll probably be cutting credit limits no matter what. And unlike a line of credit, which you could draw down and just have the cash available just in case, like Meet Kevin did at the beginning of the pandemic, which he used to invest in the markets and make a lot of money. A little risky, but he also knew that if he didn't, the banks would have probably reduced his available line of credit. But actually looking back, I don't think any bank did that. So it's kind of strange to think at the time that it could have happened. So he did what he did. But looking back, the banks didn't really do that because the government did step in and pour money into the economy.
Now, I have a question because I had a Old Navy credit card, Old Navy, Gap, Banana Republic, all in one thing, right? And I had an Old Navy credit card, and then they got bought out by Barclays. I don't know, it starts with a B. They got bought out by somebody. But the thing is, when I got my Old Navy credit card, they gave me a $1,000 credit limit, right? Well, I didn't use it for a year. I got it for one massive purchase I did before our kid went back to school, put it all on the credit card so I'd save 40% on that purchase, and then turned around and paid it off immediately and never used it again. I used it smart. I did a smart thing to save myself 40%, right? And I never used it again. $1,000 credit limit. Well, I got a letter in the mail a few months ago that said, hey, we've reduced your credit limit to $150. And I was like, well, that's stupid. So then my brain starts thinking, well, what if these companies have this set amount that they can have as a credit limit for all of their card holders? And they see that this one person isn't using it, so they run theirs down to almost zero to give more limit to the person who is using it and is paying the interest and paying the late fees and the whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how the credit card companies work, but I'm sure they have to have a percentage of assets in association with the amount of available credit because they too have to make good on the charges that are made.
Yeah.
But as their assets are reduced, as their comfort level, as their accountants are looking at the economy, the markets, their investments, their returns, and their potential for loss, they're going to do their best to mitigate that and put themselves in a better position for survival. And an account like yours doesn't make them any money, so they don't really care.
Whereas on the flip side, Target, I use my Target card all the time, my Target Red card, to save 5% every time I buy at Target, and then I turn around again and pay it off. That way I get the savings, but whatever else. They saw how often I use my card, and they bumped me up like another $1,000 credit limit. No, I haven't gotten near it, but they see that I use it, and so they're like, well, here's the ability if you want to do it.
Yeah.
That was a few months ago, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a what's the placebo? And they give you this drug, or so
Credit.
you think, and it's a sugar pill, and it just gives you this perception that you feel better. So they give you more credit, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go to Target instead of going to Walmart, which is interesting because later on in the video, we're going to talk about how you can't go to Target and you can't go to Walmart. We're going to talk about that. Meanwhile, Economic Ninja did point out that a record $930 billion, a 19% increase in credit card debt for the end of 2022, which he pointed out, which is very, very eye-opening. That was the end of 2022. 930 billion, 19% increase. What is it looking like for the end of the first quarter 2023? What are we potentially going to look like for end of Q2 with record high credit card debt? But there is more to it, far more to it. And again, we have to ask the question of why and connect the dots, which I think I may have one of the best dot connectors here.
He's talking about me.
And Bupe sends an email. Applebee's closes store. Now, Applebee's, a restaurant known for being your neighborhood bar and grill, closed the last week of March in Brooklyn. I think it's Brooklyn Center. The store had been in operation for 38 years. 38 years.
I forget that Applebee's has been around that long because we were going there when you were 16 and whatever else. Like that was where everybody went.
Yeah. I remember Applebee's in New York when I was like a little kid. I think it was New York, but either way, maybe it was right when I got to Georgia in the 92. And anyway, 38 years abruptly closed, citing crime as the leading cause of the store closure. With the rise in unemployment, most places have noticed a rise in theft and crime in most neighborhoods. Like they kind of go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like what I was talking about with Anton Daniels in that video, Charleston White and the police officer, and how the problems just continuously multiply exponentially and be compounded throughout these neighborhoods that experience these problems. They breed more problems.
Mm-hmm. That is how it works a lot of times.
I'll play this clip.
It's heartbreaking. I've been here for 2 years, so it's going to be kind of sad transitioning.
City leaders called the Brooklyn Center Walmart closure a devastating and a major economic loss to our region. Now, 1 week later, another setback for the city. Brooklyn Center now has one less sit-down restaurant for people to enjoy. As Delane Cleveland reports, 1 week after Walmart announced its departure from Shingle Creek Crossing, nearby Applebee's abruptly closed its doors for good.
That's going to happen. The more often you see a Walmart close, you're going to start seeing other things go down around it.
Yeah. So that was the desert I was talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just going to slowly permeate out of the areas that they don't want to be in, out of the areas that as they leave, the crime rate, they're leaving because of the crime. And as they leave, the crime goes up.
And then what happens is some big company like BlackRock or something's going to come in, buy up the whole entire area and gentrify the crap out of it.
Damn.
It's a restaurant known for being your neighborhood bar and grill. And for years, Applebee's served that role in Brooklyn Center.
I've eaten at this Applebee's several times, and it's a neighborhood bar and grill, like it says, and it's always had a nice atmosphere.
Yet anyone visiting the Brooklyn Center Applebee's Wednesday afternoon was greeted with a sight of boarded-up windows, furniture being hauled into a massive U-Haul, and a sign directing customers to locations in New Hope, Maple Grove, and Fridley.
It gets real interesting. This is only a 2-minute, 43-second clip, but there's a really important statement that gets made here in just a moment, and another closure that you don't see happen often.
I already know. I know it's happening. I know what you're going to say.
What?
You're going to say Target.
There's another DoorDash order that we probably can't get. We got to go into Fridley for that.
Another DoorDash order that they can't get. Mm-hmm. All right. Woe is me. First world problems. But for those...
DoorDash driver is now out of a job. Or at least not out of a job, but out of one location that could have brought them more orders and more money.
And then eventually another location.
And then none of the locations.
People who frequent this area expressed their disappointment.
It's kind of unfortunate that several businesses in this area are closing. Target's gone. Target's been gone for a long time.
Target's gone. That was not the one, but Target is gone. Mm-hmm. Target's been gone for a long time. Walmart's gone. Applebee's is gone.
Is it going to be a Publix grocery store?
It's terrible that businesses are going away because the people who don't have transportation, they have no place to go now.
Applebee's is just the latest high-profile business to vacate Shingle Creek Crossing. Last August, Discount Tire closed up shop, and on April 21st, Walmart plans to do the same.
I've never seen a Discount Tire close.
Yes, you have. Buford, Georgia. Discount Tire became Marvin's or
That was a Kaufman tire. That was a Kaufman tire, and it got bought out by
Are you
Mavis.
thinking of the one on 20 or the one on Riverside?
20. It got bought out by Mavis.
Mavis, that's what it is. Okay, so then I'm incorrect and you're right.
I've never seen a discount tire close.
Yeah, but if people don't, like she said, people who don't have transportation, if that's an area where people don't have the vehicles and don't have the money to pay for new tires and whatever else, there's no point in being there.
Or discount tires looks at it as a target. Like, tires are expensive.
And they're in stock and easy to steal if you break in. Not easy to steal, they take up a lot of room.
Because of the fact that, some people have really gotten out of hand with, thieves and, stealing. And it's hurting the bottom line with a lot of these businesses.
While none of these businesses have specifically mentioned crime as the reason for their departure, people we spoke to believe it played a role.
Crime is everywhere. I get it.
I really feel like crime is a factor. I can't deny that.
Whatever the case may be, the restaurant that uses the slogan, "Eating good in the neighborhood," won't be a factor in this neighborhood going forward.
There isn't.
I'm going to start talking like, what's his name? What's his name?
That
Spot?
squirrel
Not
can
Spot.
water ski. Oh,
What's his name?
Burgundy?
No. Well, also Ron Burgundy, but from Star Trek.
Nimoy.
He's not the one. Richard Nimoy played Spock, but he's not the one who talked like that. It was Kirk, Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sounds like a modern day news Captain Kirk.
Any place to go in and sit down that isn't really fast food.
It's the Priceline guy. There's a Priceline guy.
No.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, yes, he did do Priceline for a while. Yes. Okay.
Center, Dwayne Cleveland, CCX News.
Now he's done.
CCX News reached out to Applebee's Media Relations Department for an explanation for the closure, but our request was not immediately returned.
Yeah, they're not gonna respond.
No, they're not going to respond. No, you know what, you guys, you're right. You got us. We're closing because of all this theft and crime, and we don't want to be here because we value our safety. They're not going to tell you that.
Look, you got to pay attention. If you're in the area, you might want to find a way to get out before it's too
Everything
late.
is gone, and your home has no value.
It's like, when you knew that there were potential shortages and other impacts, you go and get what you can. You don't overindulge and hoard, but you do get what you can to make sure you're ready. Well, when everybody's leaving, you might want to prepare to do the same and relocate to a better place.
But also on top of that, a lot of these places, when they do decide to close down, they have store closing sales. That is a very good time to go in and get the things that you want at a drastically discounted price.
But, these are all parts of a whole. There will be less opportunities for jobs, for work, probably lower pay, and they'll start manipulating the pay options because they know that people who are still around are going to be desperate just for whatever they can get. And, meanwhile, G.I. Justin shared a video yesterday. As I said, there's more to it all, which made me ask a question when thinking about Applebee's, thinking about everything that's going on, thinking about the overall master plan. He said, what's the dirtiest thing in a restaurant?
Oh, I know that immediately. I know it immediately. It's always going to be whatever you have to hold in your hands to look at everything, the menu, because the menus get disgusting. As somebody who worked in restaurants, the menus get disgusting. They have somebody up front who's supposed to spray them down and clean them off, but when it's really busy, you're going to get that recycled menu. You don't know the person that went to the bathroom before they touched that menu if they washed their hands, the kid that just got done picking his nose and wiped it in the menu. You know what I'm saying? Like, menus are just germ petri
Merlin's
dishes.
Who knocked all the menus on the floor.
On the floor. And so then it's like, well, do you pick them up? But then that's gross too. You pick them up off the floor and put them back on the table where your food's about to go. So...
What did they know when everybody decided, hey, let's switch to QR codes instead of real menus?
They knew that there was dirty stuff on the menus, but that's not why they switched to QR codes.
Did they know about the Marburg virus?
Probably not. They did it for a C-19 thing, but the whole reason they went to QR codes is money, so they could update their pricing like that without having to print out new menus.
G.I. Justin, you go check out his video. He's got this Marburg virus update, and there's a 21-day incubation period. It can be transferred from humans to animals and vice versa. And people could literally be walking around, as hosts.
So for you people who weirdly make out with your dogs, don't let them lick your mouth anymore.
While
It's so gross.
While then thinking back on Economic Ninja's video where he says, yeah, I'm going to talk to you guys about healthcare job cuts too. Mm-hmm. What is happening? Healthcare potential risk of deadly viruses, a 90% death rate, 10% survival rate.
That's lovely.
Job loss, healthcare cuts, people running out of money, looking to leverage debt. Like,
If you've never seen the movie Outbreak, I think it's Morgan Freeman in it, in Outbreak. No, somebody's in the movie Outbreak. You should just go watch it.
the one with the monkey?
The one with the monkey.
I never saw it.
Dustin Hoffman
I never saw it.
and the lady from Lethal Weapon, who was Mel Gibson's wife in Lethal Weapon.
You mean Riggs?
Yeah, Riggs. What was her name? I don't remember her name, but she's in it, and I think it's
Renee something?
No. Well, maybe, but I don't know the last name. Maybe Renee something, but I don't know the last name. It's not Zellweger. And then I think it's Morgan Freeman that's in it. Either way, go watch Outbreak, and that pretty
No,
much.
Danny Glover was in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about Outbreak.
Oh, you said.
I think it's Morgan Freeman. Go watch Outbreak because it's basically the Marburg virus, and it's so weird how there's movies that happen and then life imitates art.
If you really want to know what's happening and what's going to happen, watch The Simpsons.
That too, also. I will say really quick that, the solution to all of it, I'll tell you the solution to all of it.
Handy wipes?
Probably helpful, but the main solution, bet there's no Marburg virus in 15-minute cities in the future. They're going to dome your butt in, and you can get to anywhere you need to be. All the hospitals are in these 15-minute cities. You want some Applebee's, you better take your little butt to a 15-minute city. You want a walkable Walmart? 15-minute city. Outside of that, Mad Max, desert, barren, fight for your life.
Healthcare job cuts, 65% increase over 2021 to 2022. And first quarter alone, we saw these increases. Meanwhile, this is all leading up to the culmination of massive economic crisis and collapse, liquidity, pain felt by families and businesses, as Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chair himself, said months ago at Jackson Hole. People being forced to sell their homes, forced to live in their cars, forced to stand in lines at soup kitchens, and ultimately become homeless.
Soup for you. I now want to go watch Seinfeld. It's not the point. I know.
We got some comments we need to read. That just basically, this is it, folks. Literally, Perry Mayer literally just got eliminated today from my job. No notice, and they don't even care what I was working on as a business intelligence analyst. Incredible. Job cuts are real and happening.
That's the worst one, where it's you have no heads up, you have no reason behind it. It's just you either show up to work on a Friday and they tell you today is your last day, or on your way out the door they tell you don't come back Monday. Like, those are awful, especially when that is your livelihood and you don't have other streams of income. You don't have a nest egg. You don't have options to get you through that last paycheck that's headed your way.
Granted, some people will say, I just got another job. I just got a promotion. I just got a raise. Cool. Good. Great. Hopefully you're not wasting that money that you're getting. But for others, hey.
This is the unfortunate, sad reality of where we are as a country.
Now, this one, I was thinking about this before I even read this comment this morning when you all were having your discussion.
Yeah.
I'll let you read this comment.
If only public schools would teach financial discipline half as much as they do gender dysphoria. Dysmorphia? Dysphoria. Dysmorphia.
Disturbia.
Whatever. This is from Mississippi Shepherd. If only public schools would teach financial discipline half as much as they do gender dysphoria. So what's interesting is I think back on school and what I was taught. And in 7th grade, they showed me how to balance a checkbook. And that's all they showed me. They didn't help me with credit cards. They didn't teach me about savings accounts. They taught me how to balance a checkbook, but they didn't teach me how to get the money, how to hold on to the money. They just showed me how to balance a checkbook after you paid a bill. So,
Ma, come here. I want you to read this comment. This is
what we were talking
linking
about earlier
back
today.
to what y'all were discussing this morning. Read that comment.
If only public schools would teach financial discipline half as much as they do gender dysphoria. Where's the rest of it?
That's it. That's the ... That's what we were talking about this morning about the new curriculum that could be rolling out into schools soon. And it's not about financials, and it's not about learning how to survive, and it's not about anything else.
I think it's unbelievable about how we are in an economic crisis, yet school boards are discussing this whole gender studies,
Well, because again,
syllabus instead of, hey, let's make it so that people don't lose their jobs.
they don't want you to be self-reliable and self-sufficient, because then you don't need them. You don't have to. You won't rely on them. They can't hold everything over you.
We're going to have to pick that back up.
Yeah.
Read that one.
Homesteader Nurse says, actually, my credit card company just raised my limit and sent me checks to use for an interest-free balance transfer because I've been paying them $1,000 per month in my quest to pay them off. I'm just ignoring all that and paying them off. I'm keeping my eyes on the prize debt-free. That's what I said. They see that you are doing smart things, and they're like, you know what? Higher limit. So maybe they'll take advantage of it and use it and
it's
paying the
important
interest.
for people to realize this and say no.
Yes.
Not ignore it. If you want to take advantage of it, take advantage of it, but use it to accomplish the goal, become debt free, and don't say, oh, well, now I have another, I have an increased balance that I can go charge.
Well, keep in mind, it does say interest-free balance transfer. That is a key point, though. If there is an interest-free balance transfer and you are paying interest on something else, take advantage of the interest-free balance transfer. Keep paying your $1,000 a month, and you'll pay it off faster without the interest.
Yeah, you got to look at it though. Sometimes they charge a fee to process them.
Okay.
My husband was let go 3 weeks ago. We were prepared to retire. He just couldn't make the decision to retire himself. I worry about Social Security stability. My retirement is an Alaska state retirement, and my supplemental insurance is provided through that. And this is it says, I worry about IRAs being in the stock market, 401k in the stock market. Our property, 80 acres in Colorado, is paid off. My next move is to buy chickens. Again, she has a plan, and fortunately they were preparing to retire. It just wasn't able to pull the trigger, but it was pulled for her husband. But ultimately that just means a position was eliminated. And this could be the complete opposite. We weren't prepared to retire. But forced to.
Yeah.
So, buy chickens.
And seeds.
I'm a finance manager.
Can I say the name? Bitchy hippie. I like the name.
It says I'm a finance manager at a car dealership, and it's amazing or how much credit card debt we have been seeing on people's credit. Also, it's very obvious that the banks are pulling way back, and the rates are ridiculous. So, as I said, it's a burn the candle at both ends. They want more money in the banks. They want people to, keep the money in the banks, reduce liquidity risk and contagion and systemic risk and bank runs. But the banks don't want to lend. They're pulling back on lending, pulling way back. And even if you wanted to borrow, it's too expensive.
Well, here's the problem here. Finance manager at a car dealership, how much credit card debt we're seeing. Why are you at a car dealership to buy a car if you're that far in credit card debt?
That's a good question.
Those people shouldn't be there.
Well, this was something I discussed about a year ago when I said, what if your car is totaled out unexpectedly? You got to go get another one.
Okay, you're right. There are reasons behind everything.
And if you're not always ready, and that happens, so like at the time it was, if you're not ready, the rates hadn't jumped yet, but the prices went through the roof, and the availability wasn't there. Supply chain issues. As you guys saw from video 2 days ago, some of these car dealerships have inventory that they can't move, so you don't have to worry about that. But the prices are high and the interest rates are high. The underwriting is going to be more stringent. It's going to be harder to get that money.
What's that phrase? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
S. Young says, I've bought the same pack of bacon at Costco for years now. The same package went from $15.99 to $21.99. That is not 6%.
As they say, the food inflation was 6 or 7%. Maybe
that?
the Fed.
No, they don't. CPI doesn't include food.
Somebody said it.
Okay.
It's all over the board.
CPI doesn't include food.
Okay, they were talking about that. That's the.
If they said 6%, it's like 6% from yesterday.
I was about to say, maybe it's an averaged out, but because bananas didn't go up. Wow.
Yeah, that's just one example. I think most people knew a while ago those numbers were total BS.
I called that out.
They changed that price to that like 2 years ago. If you pay bills or do any shopping for your household, you know it's impossible to only be 6%.
Mm-hmm. That's accurate.
Yeah, so you got to think. Higher prices, inflation, potential job loss, health risks and concerns, credit crunch, liquidity crisis, and food prices are going up. These are necessities. Last but not least, I'll let you read that one.
Okay, this is from John Carlson, and it says, here's what scares me. If you think the homeless problem is bad now, just wait. Oh, John, I agree. Rental prices are insanely high, and rental requirements are ludicrously tight. Apparently, landlords are saying, 1, that rent can only be a third of your gross income. 2, you must have sterling credit. And 3, no previous evictions. The guy that cuts my hair owns his own business and makes decent money, about $6,000 per month. He said the house he was renting sold, so he needed to move. He has a big family, needed to rent a larger place that rents for about $2,500 a month. He said because rent was over 33% of his income and the market was super tight, people were bidding over asking rent. He and his family almost ended up on the street. Luckily, he found a place through a friend and was able to avert disaster. In my opinion, when all of this shakes out, people get laid off and default on their debts en masse. Their credit scores will get annihilated. Therefore, when they lose their homes or can't make rent and want to downsize to a smaller place, they won't qualify and end up on the street.
Yeah, and this is also going to be geographically dependent because some areas are going to be easier than others to find a replacement, an alternative, and others will be more difficult and or more expensive or experience these bidding wars and driving up prices further. And that's a minimum qualification, a third of your income, stellar credit, no evictions. But as they compare applications, that just gets you in the door. If there's an applicant far more qualified and based on income could potentially pay more, you got to put your income on the application. It's like, well, this person makes twice as much money as you make. So we're going to put it out there and say best and final offer, come back with your highest offer to rent the property. This is a negotiation. That could be a game changer. At the end of the day, we got our work cut out for us. We got a lot of big problems that are ultimately going to be hitting all these people in worse ways than you might have thought and may think is possible. It's finally happening, and there's really more to come that we're not even aware of yet. That headlines and reports and news will be released, and breaking updates will be tomorrow, Monday. Today's Sunday, so Monday again.
Who knows what's coming out tomorrow?
Every Monday, there's something.
There is always something every Monday. It's ridiculous. But there's so many people that either don't see it, so don't think it's real, or don't want to see it, so refuse to know it's real.
Well, we'll leave it on this point here. And that was, again, a discussion and conversation we were having this morning about people understand what's happening and what's going on, but they're afraid of it, and they want to pretend like there's nothing they can do. So they just try to avoid it, hide from it, shield themselves from it. But at the end of the day, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. And if you aren't prepared for it, that's on you.
Until next time.